Hello, my name's Kit Lacey from edubconversions.co.uk and I'd like to introduce you to Bella. Bella is a 1970 Volkswagen T2 camper van and I think you'll agree she looks pretty great for a 55-year-old camper. Bella is a prime example of a really well-loved camper van, and that's one of our favourite things at eDub, to be working on these classic campers, because all of them have a personality, they all have a name, they're all really part of the family, and it's a real testament to the owners of Bella that they've taken such good care of her. But Bella has undergone a significant transformation, and we'll get more into that in this video. So I'm going to talk you through the process of what's happened with Bella while she's been with us at eDub, and there might be a few things in there that you won't have expected. So some classic campers come to us in need of a lot of restoration work, and that's definitely something that we can handle here at eDub, and you'll probably see a little bit more of that in some of our other videos. In fact, there's a video live on our channel right now about the Swedish adventure wagon that's undergone some significant restoration work, but there are other camper vans that come to us and they don't need very much at all. So Bella was one of those examples. So she came to us and there were a handful of things that the customer wanted taken care of alongside the electric conversion, but for the most part she was pretty good nick, and that was really unusual, but it was brilliant for us and our team because we could be really clear talking to the customer and saying, hey, these are the kind of things that we can take care of. And also sometimes those restoration jobs, although are very capable, nobody is going to be able to come to you and say, it doesn't matter how good they are, and say, hey, that's going to cost you exactly this amount of money. So it's also one of those things where it's really nice to come to a camper van and just get straight stuck in with the stuff that you're good at, the electric conversion work. But we're going to go into some of the restoration work now, just to show you what has gone on with that process, so that if you've got your own classic camper van, it needs a bit of love, you know, it's coming off the road to have its electric conversion potentially before you contact us, just know that we can take care of all these other little bits and pieces first. So we will start with the inside. So there were two kind of major changes the customer wanted us to take care of here in the back of Bella. So Bella, first of all, is a camper van. So she's not a minibus, and she's not a panel van or a kind of tin top conversion van, but she's a camper van, so she's got she already had things like these original cabinets here and a rock and roll bed in the back, and the kind of vinyl and upholstery work was already taken care of, but one of the things she asked us to do was take care of the cabinets here in the front. For one, it was about looking at accommodation for certain interior power units that I'll go into in just a moment, but it was also just a storage location, so having more wood effect storage was really important to this customer, and I think they look really great. They're also removable, so if the time came where she needed to get some more stuff in here or just things changed, you can take these cabinets out or move them around, so that's really useful. The other thing that we took care of was the headlining. So you can see behind me the headlining above here. Now, I'll be honest with you, I can't quite remember what the headlining was like before. I've got a sneaky suspicion it was a traditional headlining that wasn't looking very great. One of the big things that the customer wanted was a really economical use of headlining. So traditionally, and you know, these have a huge tin pop top, and so they can, especially when you're camping, kind of lose heat quite efficiently. So this has some wool headlining and then some carpet liner over the top of that I think looks really, really smart. And that's not only on the tin top section over the whole top of the van, but it's actually also inside the pop top section as well. So wool is one of those brilliant insulators where it keeps hot stuff hot and cold stuff cold, and we're really pleased with how that turned out. But those two things I think have made a really significant difference to just the enjoyability of the camper, and it's another one of those brilliant things about classic campers, isn't it, is that they're so versatile. All we need is an idea, is the customer coming to us and saying, hey, I've thought about some kind of better insulation in the pop top. Okay, great, let's go off and have a little investigation. But yeah, we're really pleased with how those things have come through. So yeah, we're really hoping that they will enhance the camping experience for the customer. So to give myself a deadline, I'm going to boil the kettle while I explain what I'm doing when I'm boiling the kettle. So turn that up, brilliant. So The other reason for putting these cabinets in is that they are also integrating a couple of key camping interior items. So we have a 12-volt fridge, a drawer fridge down the bottom here, so for keeping anything when you're going away. My favourite is bacon for bacon sandwiches, but also milk for cups of tea, etc. But it was also integrate one of the key kind of off-grid camping features that this vehicle has. So again, I will get to the electric conversion in a moment, but one of the real key offsets of the electric conversion is an off-grid power inverter. Now, you will see a lot more of these kind of creeping up in modern camper vans, but they operate in a slightly different way. So if you are looking at traditional camper van with off-grid power, a lot more of them are having electric power inside. They are all coming from normally quite a sophisticated system in the back of the vehicle that's inverting 12-volt power, so from 12-volt leisure batteries into 240-volt AC power. Now, those are, in my opinion, they're reasonably expensive. Now, obviously, if you've got a large van and you're living in that, then of course that's a brilliant option. But in our context, we didn't need all of those extra components because we've already got all of the safety systems built into the main battery pack that's driving the vehicle forwards. So this vehicle already has one huge battery that's in the back. There's no point adding more batteries alongside the main one. Instead, we need to build in clever systems that allow you to use that main battery pack for really smart systems like this. So what we've built in is an off-grid inverter that takes the 400-volt power that's in the large battery pack and inverts it into 240-volt AC power. Blah, blah, blah. That means you can power hobs, things like this. So having these cabinets in here with integrated hobs means that you can get some really cool off-grid features. So right now we're not plugged into any power. I'm taking a little bit of my power from the main battery pack, but to make a cup of tea in, what was that, 2.5 minutes? It's really not taken that much power at all, but it's one of my favorite features of having these. So this is fully integrated, and that looks like I'm out of time of telling you all about it. But now I'm gonna have my coffee. So let's go through the interior specs of this camper van. So it has a full rock and roll bed that I'm sitting on right now. That's a 3/4 width, which is traditional when you're wanting kind of additional side cabinets like we've got right here. It's got 2 large additional cabinets in front of me, which are housing a 12-volt fridge, and it's also housing a single hob 240-volt AC inverter as well. Inside this cabinet over here, we have a 3-pin plug, so you can power traditional 3-pin items, whether that's recharging a laptop or even powering. There was an opportunity where while we were driving out on test driving, we discovered a slow flat on one of the wheels. Now, of course, we were getting that replaced, but we needed to get the vehicle back to the unit. But because we had a 3-pin plug, we were able to power a traditional kind of home, super powerful tire inflator that just plugged into there and blew up the tires, and we were able to get home no problem. The camper also has a full pop top. Now it's a hinged pop top, which gives you a ton of space when you're standing up inside, and again, it's got that full insulation on there, and it's got a board for storing some items up there. So if you were camping and you need to store some luggage or bedding up on that board, that's really super useful too. It's got traditional interior kind of 12-volt lighting, so lighting like up here, lighting in the cupboards. Those all work really, really great too. It's got curtains. It's got the traditional kind of vent windows with the fly catchers on there as well. It's also got storage underneath me and a wonderful little shelf storage here and storage at the back. Tons of storage, over all the storage you need. You've got full speaker system integrated into the back here, which is also shared with the front, so the stereo system can play music throughout the vehicle, so whether you're a passenger in the front or in the back, you can enjoy the music that's being played from the stereo system in the front. We've also got in the back, obviously, a spare tyre here, and I'll show you in a moment, we've got the charging cables as well. Now, the charging cables are adaptable for traditional electric vehicle charging, so Type 2 to Type 2 charging, but we also include a very special variable current charger that's brilliant for charging at campsites, and will actually turn down quite low so that you can be really sympathetic to the power in the campsite. So this camper also features, this one has a bike rack fitted to it. That's not really something that's a massively adventurous feature. These are available for Type 2 campers, and they're really straightforward, just to clip onto the front and back of the boot. You can still use the boot, which is really smart, so it's not something that's going to get completely, totally in your way as you're trying to actually use the vehicle. But yeah, full kind of section on the back here. You've got your traditional spare wheel with a camper van, and then we've got our charging cables here as well. So Type 2 cable, and then the smart brick cable that's in the back there too. But the access here is brilliant, and I will admit my favourite place to sit is here. I love sitting here and having this as kind of a full panoramic view of wherever I'm sitting. You know, if I'm looking out over, you know, a campsite or out over some kind of vista, it's a lovely place to sit with a cup of tea and get a really good view of what's going on. So when I talk about these charging cables, I know if you are a EV driver, some of these terminologies of Type 2 charging and things like that, you'll be super familiar with. But if you're not familiar with EVs at all, I thought it'd be a good idea to show you what those exactly look like. So as I said, these get included with our electric conversions, kind of completely part of the kits. So the most straightforward one is this one here. So that is a Type 2 to Type 2 connection. One side would plug into the side of the vehicle, and the other side plugs into a Type 2 charger. Now those are the traditional ones that you would get at home. So if you're getting an EV at home, or if you are getting electric conversion, we would advise getting a traditional 7 kilowatt. That's the speed charger for your house, and that would connect to that cable. Very straightforward. The other cable that we've got here is a bit fancier. So this has, I'll show you the kind of basic side of it first of all. So again, on one end, you've got the traditional side that goes into the vehicle. So this plugs into the side of the vehicle. On the other end, you've got a choice. You've either got a 3-pin plug. So that's kind of commonly referred to as like a granny cable. But it's also got this section here, which means you can remove that end loop and replace it with one of these. Now that is a traditional UK campsite commando socket. Now the super clever thing about that is a lot of campsite owners, rightly so, are becoming a bit frustrated with EV drivers taking the electricity and charging up their EVs. And traditionally, an EV would come with a granny cable that had a set speed of normally around 13 amps, and it can be a real difficulty to actually control that power, and more often than not they were causing problems and they were tripping out camping systems. So we have instead supplied our campers with this clever brick here. Now this isn't just an external unit, we've actually built our internal battery management system to accommodate this charging system in a really, really streamlined way. What it means is that this charging brick actually has 5 different speeds built into one brick. So in reality, what that means is, if you are going somewhere and you are wanting to connect to the campsite and plug in, instead of it being a traditional kind of reasonably fast speed from a commando socket that could cause a problem with the campsite, especially the really rural campsites. So if you're going into a national park, some of them do not have 13 amp or 16 amp supply, they will have 10. Now, more motorhomes, traditional motorhomes these days are getting more sophisticated electrical systems. So campsites are becoming more aware of that and are building into that. But we've decided to cover all bases. So if you arrive at a campsite and you want to be able to plug in and charge, you would simply connect this brick side with the commando adapter. It would light up, and then you can change the speed to something a bit more sympathetic. So you can change it to 10 amps if all you've got is a 10 amp supply. You could even change it to 8 amps or even 6 amps if you were really a bit concerned about how it was going to go. Or maybe you don't need a ton of range. Remember, you're at the campsite for hours and hours and hours. You don't need to be charging at the fastest speed possible. And that keeps the vehicle happy, it keeps you happy, it keeps the campsite owner happy. We're really proud of that integration. So here is the business end of what eDub takes care of. So eDub are a specialist in electric conversions of classic campers and other classic cars. Now, what that means in reality is it works like an engine swap. So for a variety of reasons, our electric conversion systems work like an engine swap. So you remove the engine and the gearbox and the fuel tank, and you replace it in an identical position with a high voltage battery pack, which you can see here, and also a electric motor. So we have an eDub drive unit that sits down underneath the vehicle in between the rear wheels. So we don't change. A Type 2 camper is a rear wheel drive vehicle. None of that changes. And on the fuel tank space, we now put all of our other control systems. So we put things like our charger, our DC-DC converter, which is like your alternator, but we also put some of our other fancy systems like what you've seen in Bella, like our off-grid inverter. So on there sits a small box. Like I said, that's taking the battery power from the high voltage battery pack here, transferring it into AC 240 volts to be able to power internal bits and pieces as well. So having this section open, I hope you'll agree, I think it's a really streamlined integration. So as we said before, none of this is actually modifying the vehicle at all. We've built our systems to bolt onto the original places where the original engine and gearbox used to go. So it has custom drive shafts, but beyond that, the actual vehicle itself is identical. And that's really important for two reasons. One, it keeps the DVLA happy, so they don't start getting cross with what you've done, but it also means the value of the vehicle is untouched. So you can still keep the value of the electric conversion and the value of the vehicle separate. So in this case, you could put a number on the value of Bella, of her interior, of her paintwork, of her bodywork, of her features. That has a value, and then you have a second value of the electric conversion system, and it's also fully reversible. So if the vehicle goes on to a new owner, then the system can be removed or maybe even sold on and used in other vehicles as well. And we're really excited that we're trying to kind of push that point ahead as strong as possible, that these conversions shouldn't be just a one-time go. They should be something that lasts for decades and decades, because the batteries will last longer than the vehicle will. The rust will get it before the batteries run out of capacity. So the batteries are super capable of surviving. But in here, I mean, it doesn't really look like much. It's quite disappointing, isn't it? But like I say, it's in a really fully integrated system. It's super safe. So you've got all the same regulations that you would require. We actually match the highest level of safety specifications, which is the TÜV standards in Germany. We don't have to match those standards, but we choose to keep the vehicles as safe as possible. And those are all fully integrated in a really streamlined kit. But yeah, it just means that you just drive it. You just put your foot down and off you go, which leads me to the next point of the vehicle, and we'll take a look at this now. Is we're going to jump into the cab and I'm going to show you the actual driving experience. What does it take? Is it a ton of complicated levers and switches and odd things to make it work, or is it actually rather simple? So here's all the knobs and switches. In the front here, we, again, similar to the rest of the vehicle, try to keep it as sympathetic as possible. So what you don't have in the front here is suddenly a whole change to how the thing drives and loads of extra buttons and switches and strange things to remember. So instead, we've built tons of it into what you are already useful. Now, the nature of the conversion is, because it's a small drive unit, which means it doesn't have a changing gearbox. It means it's just sending a single speed from the motor through a reducer to the wheels. It means it drives like an automatic. So first thing that's been simplified is there's no gear stick, there's no clutch, gone. That therefore means you need another way of saying which way you want to go. So you've now got a gear switch that's simply this switch here. So you've got forwards and you've got reverse, very straightforward. The other thing that electric vehicles need is they need a facility to tell the system that it's safe for it to start operating. And that's normally done with your brake pedal. So it wants to know, is there a human being sat in the front seat before it tries to switch anything on? And again, that's fully integrated. So the way that the brake system traditionally works, as you press down on the brake, it turns on your brake lights, and we interrupt that signal to tell the drive unit that there's a human being sat here, which is incredibly important. That brake is also useful. Again, it's second nature because you're using it, but the brake also helps the vehicle to know whether it's safe for it to change direction. So if you're in forward gear and you want to switch into reverse, you would have to have your foot on the brake to do so. That's quite normal with electric cars these days. But again, it just reminds the vehicle that there's a human being here ready to operate. Handbrake is as it was. All the other things are absolutely identical. So you've still got your horn, you've still got your traditional kind of hazard switches, your wipers, your lights, all these traditional things. But the dash itself has been kind of sympathetically altered. So again, it's one of those where you would have to look twice to realize something's been done different. So in this one, what we've done is we've got 3 replica dials. So they're analog dials, but they're actually powered by our electric conversion system. So central dial is traditionally your miles per hour. That's still there with your tripometer. On the left, you've got your power dial. So that's telling you how much power you're using as you're driving, but also how much power you're getting back into the system, which either happens when you are coming off the throttle. So when you're slowing down, the system has something called regenerative braking, which means it uses the momentum of the vehicle to put power back into the battery pack. It's a really smart system, which also helps with your braking. So it reduces the wear on your brake pads and drums and discs and all the rest of it. It also shows you your live charging speed. This is something that's been a bugbear for me in certain electric vehicles, modern electric vehicles, is you plug in the vehicle and you plug into a charger and you think everything's working, you're reasonably confident, but it'd be nice to know how fast you're charging. This vehicle tells you what speed you're charging at, which is really useful as well. And then finally on the right hand side, you've got your battery gauge. So depending on the vehicle will depend on what you'd be used to. Bella sports one of our 4 electric conversion systems for electric classic campers. So we have an E30, an E40, an E50 and an E60. Bella supports an E50, which has our mid-spec range. So it's a 54 kilowatt hour battery pack. Now, we don't have a rolling road or a wind tunnel to fabricate some huge figure that tells you how far that will go. Other main car manufacturers do have that figure. So instead, we have to go with how far can I drive round and round until it stops. Sorry, we have to give you a real range, not a fabricated one. So we do that. We drive around and we drive mostly on faster roads. So we're driving on kind of 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour. We are, stopping at roundabouts and then accelerating back off again. So we're using the range pretty severely. And Bella, with her E50 pack, gives you a real world range of just over 140 miles. And that's pretty impressive for the efficiency of the pack. What's comparable is actually the iDub that some of you may have seen online or in the flesh now in the real world. The iDub has a very similar energy efficiency because it's basically a big brick on wheels and there's nothing you can do about that. But it means that you can really, you can know what that range is and you can therefore use the state of charge gauge to tell you how far you're going to be going and how far you need to go. Obviously you've got the tripometer to work with that as well. But the final thing I want to show you before we actually turn it on is we've also got this switch here. So this is our, it's meant to be an eco switch. So when I press it, it lights up green and it's eco. I prefer to think of it like a turbo switch because I drive most of the time in eco mode anyway, because you should, it's more efficient and it's better for the batteries and it's going to give you longer life and more range, etc., etc. But there are those occasions when you're coming up to a roundabout or you want to get off at a junction or at some lights and you want to be a little bit quicker. So all you've got to do is while you're going or just before you go, hit that button and it gives you about 30% more power and you've just got it to get off the line. It's so much fun. I'm going to put that back to eco for now. So how does it actually start? Now, what I haven't told you is through all of this video so far, this vehicle has been on. So traditionally a camper van would be chugging at that and would be kicking out fumes and would be kind of spluttering a little bit as it made a bit of a racket as it just sat there idling in neutral, for example. No, we've been on this whole time for the entire video, right from the intro to this point now. I haven't actually turned the vehicle off. So it's still on, it's doing what it needs to do. But I'm going to show you what, so we have the actual switch to the vehicle on the original key. So I'm going to show you that from the beginning. We're going to get a beep from the off-grid system. So it still works off the original keys, again, because we didn't want to have to integrate some weird extra button system going on here. So it's still on the original key barrel. So just like before, you're putting the key in the lock, you're turning the switch round, and the system will turn itself on. It will do a ton of safety checks before you even need to think about it. Checking the high voltage battery pack, checking the temperature of the batteries, checking the temperature of the drive unit, making sure everything's working fine. Then in this particular vehicle, we get a green light on the amps gauge to say that it's ready, but you haven't told it what to do just yet. So it's just sat there going, okay, I'm happy. Are you happy? So the green light just means that it's in a mode where it's not going to do anything because it's waiting for a human to do something. So in this case, I need to select a gear. So as I said before, in fact, I'll put my seatbelt on. Like so, it is this straightforward. So I've turned the key, the system's turned on, I'm putting my foot on the brake, I'm selecting forwards, I'm on a bit of a slope, so I'm going to put a little, again, I've just come off the brake there, obviously there's no clutch, there's nothing to dip and test with there. I'm going to put a little bit of throttle power down, I'm going to release the original handbrake, check for traffic, and that's it. It is that straightforward. Now, I don't have to think any more about it, and that's one of the other beauties about these conversions is the visibility in a camper van is incredible. You've got such visibility all over, out of every window, all over your shoulders, blind spots, the whole lot. And so not having to be thinking about gears or worrying what that noise is or trying to worry about any kind of temperatures or anything like that. you can just think about it. I don't have to think about driving right now. I've just got one pedal. So as I'm pushing down on the pedal, I'm going faster. But as I come off the pedal, so I've got a little bit of regen power. So I'm not using the brakes right now. That's just slowing me down with the regen power. And you can see it on the dial as well. It's so smart. And what it ultimately does is it makes the enjoyability of a camper van back to what it should have been back in the 70s. So changing gear is also really straightforward. I mean, I've just come up to a junction here. I'm actually just doing a bit of a 3-point turn. So I'm pull up to the junction. I'm just literally, I've got my foot on the brake anyway because I've stopped. I'm going to hit reverse. I'm on a little bit of a slope, so I'm going to use the handbrake to my advantage and then just push down on the reverse and off I go. It is really that straightforward. Then again, down on the brake, select forwards, and I can go forwards again. My left foot has never been so lazy. So as I mentioned previously, we have 4 electric conversion packages that we can do for classic camper vans. Now they fit any classic camper from a split screen, so that's 1950, up to a late bay 1979 T2 VW camper van. But they will also fit any modern Brazilian camper vans as well, because the engine bay is the same. And that's for the reasons we mentioned before, in that they have to fit onto the engine mounting points that the original engine has. And that means that we don't have to do any extra design. Now, the beauty of having done electric conversions for so long means that our talents are easily transferable to other conversions. So if you look at some of the other videos on our channel, we've done a handful of other classic vehicles, and that's because the core understanding of the technology is identical across all conversions. The difference is how do you mount it safely and how do you apply the power safely to make sure that you're not doing anything too dangerous, or even in some cases electric power is a lot more than an original classic car would have been built to cope with. So what you definitely don't want is to go too overpowered and to cause any damage to the classic vehicle either. Of those 4 packages, there are various upgrades that are available, and those upgrades are modular, which means that, for example, a customer with a certain budget can take care of the electric conversion, but then there might be a few other accessories that the customer says, do you know what, we need to have a think about whether we actually need those accessories or whether we need to take them out straight away. So this particular, as we mentioned before, this one's got the off-grid power as an additional upgrade, so that's going to be great. Other things that this particular conversion doesn't have, but it could have, are things like heating and air conditioning. So heating is again something we can add into as high voltage heating. That connects to the original ducts and the original systems, and you have a few extra dials on the dash that turn on that heat, and air conditioning as well. Now, if you're curious of what that looks like, check out our Sunset video, because Sunset has both heating and air conditioning. You can see how that all works. Other things that are available for our conversions are things like LED lighting. So having super efficient, super bright, but still kind of classic white LEDs is something that we can also provide on our conversions. I love them because they're LEDs, so they're not too garish, they're super efficient, and they really look the part on these conversions. You can also get power steering and heated windscreens, which again are available for our conversions. And we can take care of all of that, as well as all the restoration, as well as all the interiors. Now, we don't pretend that we, in our workshop at eDub, are the 100% experts on all those areas, but instead, we've spent over a decade building the right relationships with the right experts to make sure that you get the best result from your company. So not only can I tell you who are the good companies to work with, but I can also tell you the ones not to work with. And I've learned that from my experience, so you don't have to. So if you are considering an electric conversion with a classic camper van, maybe you've already got a camper van that you want to convert, then why not give us a bell? Go to edubconversions.co.uk, look through all the data that's on there, download the brochure, head to the contact us page and drop us a line. It's been really great to spend all this time with Bella, and I really hope that you've got a load of information out of this video. If there's been anything that's piqued your interest, then comment on the video down below. Tell me what you want to know more about. Tell me something that's a bit curious to you, but get in touch. I love to hear any kind of feedback. It's so impressive. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.